I'd like to thank Dave for inviting me to be part of this workshop because it gives me an opportunity to tell you about the toolbox, and I'm really happy to have this opportunity and hope that you will use it and find it valuable for your work. These are just a listing of the points that I'm going to cover. I'll give you some background information on SGN just in case you're not familiar with it, and then I'll move on to the toolbox. I'll tell you how to find it, the tools that are available. We have some tutorials that we're working on. And then I'll focus on just two of the tools, which are the marker search tool and also the phenotype search tool. So SGN is based at the Boyce Thompson Institute, and it's basically a database that houses information for the Solanaceae, both genetic and genomic resources. It's primarily, right now, we have a lot of information for the Tomato Genome Sequencing Project, where I spend most of my time. And it's managed by Lucas Mueller. And right now we have, in the group there are 5 postdocs, we have 2 bioinformatics analysts, 1 system administrator, and just recently we had 3 summer interns who worked at SGN developing bioinformatic tools for the past 10 weeks. So the purpose of the Breeders Toolbox is to make the information of most interest to breeders more accessible. There's a lot of information on SGN, and it can be difficult to find, and we wanted to have a page that was devoted just to the tools that would be of most interest to breeders. It's a work in progress, and I think it will always be, or for a long time it will be a work in progress because of the amount of information that's being generated. And right now we have information for potato and tomato, but it's growing for petunia and also for eggplant. We are encouraging feedback. As Dave said, I would love to have feedback on what you need. We really rely on the breeders for the development of this toolbox. We want to know what you need, what you like, and what you don't like. We've done this in the form of usability testing, where we met with breeders one-on-one, and they worked through SGN and through the toolbox where we could see where the hang-ups were, where people were getting stuck. And I'd like to do some more of those usability tests in the future at these types of workshops where we're working with people one-on-one. So how do you provide that feedback? Well, you can send an email to me. I look at myself as a bridge between the users and SGN. But then throughout SGN, there's a link for this SGN feedback email address that you can also provide information. So this is the homepage of SGN. As you can see, there are some icons here for searches, genes, phenotypes, and there are also links here for other information, like the potato genome publication. I'm going to put a plug in here for the Sol newsletter. If you don't know about the Sol newsletter, that's something that I put together every so many months, and it's basically information that's of interest to the Solanaceae community. And if you'd like to get on my newsletter list, just send me an email. There's also information on upcoming conferences. So how do we get to the toolbox? Well, you can see there's an icon right here. If you click on that icon, it will take you to the Breeders Toolbox. And right now we have a number of tools that are available, and the SNP tool is one of those tools that's still under development. There are also links for other information like tutorials, which I'll talk about in the next slide, other tools, and there are a group of links here that I didn't include in this screenshot because it would have been too much information. But in the next 2 slides, I'll tell you about those additional links, which are the newest addition to the toolbox. So these are the tutorials, and they're being developed in collaboration with Heather Merck at The Ohio State University, and they're all housed right now at eXtension. There is a tomato genome browser tutorial, and she's also put together one for designing a CAPS marker. Currently, we have one in development for using the marker search. I'm going to tell you about that now, but there will be a tutorial available on how to use that marker search tool. So I've included just 2 slides from that tutorial. Basically, the tutorials will tell you where to find the tools. They'll give you, and then they'll go on to give you background information on what those tools are being used for and then how to use them. But I think the tools will be really very useful to the user to help take you step by step through how to use the different features. These are the links that I mentioned that are at the bottom of the toolbox. They're the newest addition on the site. And there are links for the potato genome information. There's also a table that Dave Douch has put together, a potato marker list, which I'll show you in the next slide. There's also information, of course, for the tomato genome And Doug Maxwell has put together this very nice table on tomato resistance genes. So our plan is to eventually have tables for the different information based on traits also. And there are also some other links here for other websites. So this is the table that I mentioned that Dave Dount has put together. I have no intention for you to read this. I can't read it. But I just wanted to impress upon you the amount of information that's in this table that Dave put together. It's available in a Google Docs format right now, and we would really like the community to add information to this Google Docs. You go to it, and then you'll get permission from either myself, Dave, or Nama Menda, who's a postdoc at SGN. So now for something you can read is I'm focusing on one line from that table, and it's this marker here, TG443. And in the table you can see it gives you information for the trait, the locus, and also the type of marker it is, and the chromosomal location, and the reference that Dave got that information from. So I'm going to use this TG443 as an example to take you through the marker search tool. So going back to the Breeders Toolbox, and we're going to click on this markers icon here. And that takes us to this page. And I've already typed in TG443. And you can go through and you can refine your search a bit more. You have all these qualifiers here. But to keep it simple, I just left these as is, and I chose this potato TXB map, which is a map based on a tuberosum by Bertholtii, backcross to Bertholtii. And then I hit search. And that takes you to this page where you can see it gives you the marker name, the protocol that was used for that marker, the map, chromosome location, position, and the log score, the confidence interval as to where that marker is located. Now, in general, anything in blue text on SGN, if you click that, it will take you to another layer of information. So I'm going to click on TG443. And that'll take us to this page that gives you even more information on that marker, on the insert size, the vector that was used. Sometimes there are images of the gel results for those markers. It gives you the forward and reverse sequence that were used, more information on the unigenes that they map to. And you can also look at other maps to compare this. And I haven't included all the icons for the maps on this screen, but I'll take you through a couple of those in the next slides. So this is an image of where this marker is on the T by B map population. And you can see it's highlighted here in yellow. And if I want to look at to do a comparison with another map, I just go to this Compare Map To, and I can select by this pull-down menu here. And I've decided to look at this QTL consensus map, which is came out of a most recent publication where they did a survey of QTLs associated with late blight resistance. And as you can see, we've got more markers on that map, and you can looking at TG443 is highlighted on this map and also here. And you can look to see if there are other markers in the region. If you're still not finding enough markers, you can even do a comparison with tomato maps by just clicking on this arrow, and it'll show you other maps you can select. And for this, I've selected the tomato XPen 2000 map, and you can see there are even more markers on that map. And it's just a nice tool to be able to use to see if you can find other markers in the region that you're interested in. So all the markers that are listed in Dave's table, you won't find those on SGN. And the reason for that is that they need more maps and marker information for potato. And that brings me to, well, how can you contribute data to SGN? You can become a locus editor and get what's called editor privileges, and I'll tell you how to do that. You can also provide information in a Google Doc, or as Dave did, which was to provide an Excel file, and then they converted it to a Google Doc. And there's also a link, which I'll show you, where you can on instructions for submitting maps and marker information. And as always, there throughout SGN, there's the SGN feedback email address that you can click on and get help directly. They really like to help people because they're always looking for new information. So to become a locus editor, you click on the genes icon, and that will bring down information. And one of the bits of information is becoming a locus editor, and you can click on that. It will give you information. As far as how you can contribute information on maps and markers, if you click on the maps and markers icon, that brings up some text that says submit map information to SGN. And once you click on that, it brings up this document on how to submit that information. There's information on what those files, the description of those files, and then it takes you through a mapping file and the marker data file and the requirements for each of those files. So I really encourage you to have a look at that, because I believe there are only 2 potato maps right now on SGN. So now I want to switch and talk to you about the phenotype search. So back to the Breeders Toolbox, we go to the phenotype icon, click on that, and that brings up this page. And in the interest of time, I'm going to go through and just do an advanced search. So I put a check in the advanced search box, and it brings up all these different boxes that you can fill, or there are drop-down menus. So for this advanced search, I decided to select accession, the organism, Solanum tuberosum, of course. And then for editor, I've gone to, what you can do here is if you know the name of the editor or the name of the project, you can type that in. But as you start to type in, it does this automatic fill-in and will give you options to choose. So I've gone in and done the SolCap project. And for the trait, I've selected tuber flesh color. You don't necessarily have to fill in all this information if you don't know it, but if you do, you certainly can. So after filling in this information, I hit search. And that takes me to this page of all the stock names listed here. And as you can see, there are additional pages of information that you can click on for stock names. I'm going to select this first one here. And you can see there's more information on that particular stock name. It's the stock editors, the SolCap project. There's also associated loci, related stocks. You can get images also of those particular stock. David Francis talked about ontology. And I'm going to go to the phenotype data. So by clicking on that phenotype data, that will bring up a listing of all the different phenotype data that you can look at. And by clicking on each of these traits, you can go ahead and find even more layers of information. I'm not going to go through all that information because you just need to go through and just click through, and there are layers and layers of information. And in the interest of time, I'm just going to stop here and encourage you to go into the Breeders Toolbox and start using it. And if you have any feedback, I'd be happy to hear about it, anything that you need, anything that you liked, or it makes it difficult or easier to use. And I also encourage you to contribute information to SGN. I work most directly with Nama on developing the tools for the toolbox. I didn't talk about the QTL analysis tool because that's only right now based on Tomato, but he's developed that tool. I mentioned that Lucas is the manager. I'm working with Heather Merck on designing the tutorials. And also I'm to thank SolCap for both their moral and financial support in creating the toolbox. And we also receive funding from NSF. So thank you.